Man, what the? Slackers. Yep.
Hello folks, and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, which is probably just about everyone at this point, I'm Bill Young, and I'm putting together a collection of songs that I have heard umpteen times over. This is music that I discovered mostly around the time that I was a DJ in college in the late 80s. The music itself spans generally about the late 70s up into the early 90s. Some of it I discovered before then, some afterwards. And as I mentioned in the introduction, which you haven't seen, take a look. I've pinned that link into the top pin comment below. And I'll explain a little more in there about what the program is about. But I did want to provide a quick update here since I had just this 2-month gap right after just getting the channel started. I ran into 3 issues that I had to address so I could reboot and get this thing going properly. The first was that I did have a 3rd program that I posted, but it was blocked by YouTube. That was just a matter of digging more into their policies and finding a workaround, which I have now. The other issue I discovered was more technical with equipment. I am shooting this using equipment from my local access television station and thought when I first got started it would be nice to shoot it in my apartment. Of course, I thought of this. My apartment has really poor lighting. Nothing overhead, it's just the lamps in the living room. There's the one room that's good for shooting. And a couple of north-facing windows and then an offset one to the west over here. Now, when I thought of this, the sun-filled room looked great in August. By the time I got around to putting this together, let me tell you, I should have remembered. The duration, quality, and frequency of daylight up here on the Canadian border is very, very different in the wintertime. So you could probably see the quality of light differences in the first couple of programs, the hassle of bringing equipment to my apartment, and then, of course, just trying to have it for the weekend on days off, which is Sunday, Monday for me, and had like 3 weeks in a row where there was cloudy weather and I couldn't even shoot. So decided it was time to bring this into the studio to solve that problem. So now that that's taken care of, the block programmings are covered, and the only other issue that I encountered is just a personal one. It was actually just about a year ago now that I had surgery for cancer and radiation therapy, no chemo, and I'm fine. But one of the lingering effects is my throat tends to get dry. I get a little bit pasty in the mouth. And if I'm talking too long, my throat gets a little raw and I can have these just sudden coughing fits where it sounds like I'm coughing up a lung, which is not something I want to put out in a program. And when I started these, I was running them straight through, doing the introduction, listening to the music, and the wrap-up all in one shot. And of course, the rehearsals that I was doing before I would then do however many takes it took. And then even if I managed to get through the first part of it after a couple takes and jam to the music, and I could get halfway through the wrap-up, and all of a sudden, I'm coughing like a madman and have to start all over. So took some time to think about all 3 of those, and then to deal with this one, I just broke it down and recorded in 3 different segments. As part of being in the studio, it makes it a lot easier. So now that I've got all of that together, it's going to be a lot easier for me to get these programs out for you. And to make up for lost time, I'm going to be putting together 3 different programs to pop out for this first reboot of the channel. I've got the Pogues, an Irish folk punk rock band, the Call, which is one of the more obscure rock bands of America, American rock bands of that era, and then the Art of Noise, which is a band probably unlike any other that most of you have heard. And so all of those are going to be coming up all at once. Then I'm going to go back to the once-a-week format. I've only got so much music rattling around in my brain. If I'm trying to do each artist just once as a sampling, I want to stretch this out as much as possible. So as a reminder if you're new to the channel, which as I said, most people would be at this point, don't forget that subscribe button. ring the notifications bell if you want to hear about these new programs. It's just going to be once a week. And I'll be playing, as you're going to see here, from the 3 I'm doing now and the 2 I already had. There's a whole variety of music coming out. And of course, as always, appreciate any likes and let me know in the comments what you think. The only other change that I made is I had talked in the introduction about once every month doing some sort of little something extra like I did with 88 Lines, something that requires rehearsing and choreography and whatnot. I've got a bunch of songs in mind that I could do something with like that, but I'm just going to focus most on getting this channel back up and running on a regular basis. And as I have time to rehearse those and pop those in there, I'll be doing that, just not the once a month that I'd committed to originally. Just going to be too much. I'd rather focus on getting the programs out. So that's the quick update as to what's been going on. Oh, I forgot to mention here, I was talking about having gone through cancer surgery. This is my fantastic cancer combat hoodie. My sloth on a T-Rex that can shoot laser beams out of its eyes. I purchased it just before the diagnosis as a joke Santa gift to myself, but it very quickly became my cancer combat hoodie. I figured, me, my doctors, my treatment. Boom. And it worked. Well, the outstanding team of oncologists, 3 female oncologists, by the way, which was awesome, did a great job. Everyone at the hospital at the University of Vermont Medical Center in the oncology department, just wonderful. I can't say it was a wonderful experience, but as cancer treatments go, it was pretty damn good, especially since I had such a positive outlook. So anyway, I'm through cancer. Just wanted to mention my cancer combat hoodie here, in case you were wondering. That's my quick update. I'm going to get right into it now, diving first right off with the Pogues, a couple of other programs coming, and then stay tuned in the weeks to come for more and more. Thanks so much for staying tuned, and coming up right next is going to be the Pogues. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Bill, and this is another episode of Umpteenth Time Hearing, where I am pulling out of my memory vault just generally obscure songs from generally obscure artists, generally speaking, and just putting them out there in a slow-building collection, a slow-building jukebox, if you will, of lesser-known music, such that my umpteenth time hearing these could well wind up being your first time hearing these. Taking that whole concept of reaction videos, as I mentioned in my introduction program, and trying to turn it on its head. If this is your first time to the channel, for starters, don't forget to click on that subscribe button. There's also the notification bell if you want to hear about upcoming shows. Appreciate any likes, and certainly let me know in the comments section what you think about the program. Now, amongst the other things that are pinned in the top comments below is a link to the introduction program so you can find out a little bit more about what this whole program is about. For today, though, I've got one of the more well-known artists that I'll be putting out, and that is the Irish folk punk rock band, the Pogues. Now, I say more well-known. They're a bit more well-known in America, certainly for anyone who was listening to this type of music in the late 80s, which is when I discovered them. But very well known over in England and Ireland, where their holiday classic, Fairy Tale of New York, hits the BBC's top 20 every holiday season and has since 2005, and did for a number of non-consecutive years before that. But the song I'll be playing today is the title track from that album, 1988's If I Should Fall from the Grace of God. Now, this is a band that I just kind of generally knew about in my college years. It's one of those that, like the Sex Pistols, the Ramones, the Clash, you just kind of knew they were out there. You had heard all about them. And I can't even remember if I first heard the Pogues while walking the dorm hallway, coming from someone's room, or at the radio station or on the radio. And I mentioned the comparison to knowledge of the Clash, and that's not by chance. You see, the lead singer, rhythm guitarist, and co-screenwriter, frontman really for the Clash, Joe Strummer, had a lot of overlap with the Pogues, both musically and in film. And I'll get to the film component after we listen to the song. It's in follow-up to some of the comments I made on previous episodes. Musically, though, he filled in for their ailing guitarist during the tour for this album. And then eventually, later on, the Pogues' lead vocalist, Shane MacGowan, had a real serious drinking problem and got into drugs as well, but was well known for his drinking. And eventually it got so bad that they had to kick him out of the band, and Joe Strummer took over for a year before then bandmates, original band member Spider Stacy took over on vocals. And like a lot of bands that are going back this far, there have been a lot of changes in lineup and breakup and reunion even. And that's all information that's readily available, but I'm going to go ahead and just add one little tidbit of information, It's generally well known, but so well known that even before the advent of Wikipedia back in late 80s, 1990, whenever it was that I knew about this, which is that the name the Pogues comes from the phrase Pogue Mahone, meaning kiss my arse. And the one little Wikipedia-based tidbit I did pick up more recently is that Pogue Mahone is actually the anglicization of the Gaelic phrase Pogue Matoin, which was what literally translates into kiss my arse. So, a little bit of information about the Pogues for you there. Let's get right into it now. This is, as I mentioned, the Pogues, If I Should Fall from the Grace with God.
This one's called If I Should Fall from Grace with God, which I'm sure will never happen. The proud I never felt, but I still wasn't out, not to worry out the years. Boys, let 'em go down and the brothers in the southern track. Man, what a great song from a great band. And for those of you new to the Pogues, just hearing them for the first time perhaps, they are hardly a one-hit wonder. As I mentioned, they had their holiday classic Fairy Tale of New York from the same album. Other great hits like Lorelei, and there's always their cover of the Rolling Stones' Honky Tonk Woman. Now, I did want to jump back into the connection that I mentioned between the Pogues and Joe Strummer in film. In the previous program about Swanky Modes, way back in December, I talked about their connection with Jello Biafra from being a roadie for the Nails, and how both Jello Biafra and Swanky Modes were from the movie Tapeheads, which was this quirky, offbeat indie film that featured a whole bunch of different musicians in small cameos and supporting roles. And the same is very much true of Straight to Hell, a sort of modern alternative punk rock western, if you will. I've actually not seen the movie, read a bit about it when it came out, but can't make any direct comment on the film, which is unusual for me. I see a lot of movies, but back in that day and age, it was only playing on the indie circuit. I was attending a small school in upstate New York and grew up in rural Vermont. Access to those kind of movies with VHS first coming out is just one of those on the list that I never got to. But it does have Joe Strummer in one of the lead roles, as well as Courtney Love, and the Pogues both appearing as the band, and most of the band members appearing in individual roles, as well as Elvis Costello and Grace Jones in supporting roles as well. So it is one of those quirky offbeat movies with a whole bunch of musicians in small roles. And in point of fact, the song we just heard, If I Should Fall from the Grace of God, a slower version of that appears on the soundtrack to that movie. Now, in addition to both of these artists contributing, obviously, to the soundtrack for Straight to Hell, they also collaborated on the soundtrack for that same director's previous film. Alex Cox, whose first film was Repo Man, another great one, his second film, before Straight to Hell, was Sid and Nancy, about Sid Vicious of the Sex Pistols and his girlfriend Nancy Spungen. If you haven't seen this movie, it is a fantastic film, one of the best biopics I've ever seen. Gary Oldman's breakout role, I've been following him ever since. And, of course, both Joe Strummer and the Pogues contributing to that soundtrack as well. So that's my little bit on the Pogues this time around. Thanks for watching once again. As always, don't forget to click on that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Don't forget to ring the notification bell if you want to hear about other upcoming shows. You never know what kind of music is going to be coming your way. I do appreciate any likes, and certainly, as always, let me know in the comments section there what you think about the program. For now, may the best of your past be the very worst of your future. Thanks so much for watching. Bye now.
Did you keep a watch for a 10 months when they just slid